What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Lowkey Legends podcast, where we talk to legends that are low key. I'm Jeremiah.
I'm Gabe.
And I'm Hugo.
And over here, we have my good friend John Young. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day to talk to us.
Happy to do it.
Yeah, so let's just get right into it.
Okay.
For people watching, what exactly do you do?
So I just recently retired, but
Congrats.
Thank you. Kind of the unique path in life. Post college, I've worked for one company for nearly 41 years. And essentially what the business does is they administer what I'd call traditional old school pensions. You know, money goes in and you get a guaranteed amount of money every month for the rest of your life. And then the other side of the business administers medical, dental, and vision benefits, life insurance, long-term disability, things of that nature. In my time there, over those 41 years, I started off as a benefit analyst on the pension side. And from there I had 15 different roles, most of which ended up culminating in leadership roles. So I ran each of those funds. They're set up as trust funds, nonprofit, and I ran each one of those for a significant period of time. We have about, I say I'm not we anymore, I'm gone, but we had approximately $50 billion in assets that under management, and I played a large role in, kind of keeping track of all that and the administrative side of it.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, I guess the first question that comes to mind is, what was your role in the? You said you were there for 41 years.
Right.
What was your initial role at that place?
So when I started, I came right out of school, and the first role was called pension analyst. And basically, think of it this way: I would, review people's eligibility and communicate with them in terms of whether or not they qualify for pension or disability benefits, and that verbal communication, a lot of written things, a lot of compliance issues. We were highly regulated, a government, through the Taft-Hartley Act and through the Employee Retirement and Income Security Act. So the Department of Labor oversaw everything we did. So there's a lot of very specific rules about how you communicate and what the baseline expectations of that are. So that was my first role, was to learn all the various benefits and then, kind of help people get to the point I just got to.
Yeah, that's interesting because a lot of people, they try to create their own business, or basically what I'm trying to say is that you don't usually hear a lot of stories about people climbing up the ladder at one company for 40 plus years,
Right.
usually anymore.
Yeah.
So why do you think that is?
I think people have changed a lot in terms of their expectations of employers. And the thing, I guess, one of the things that I appreciated most about the path I took was how many companies, I don't know how many people you guys have talked to, but how many people were able to drift through all those various opportunities over time. So I did marketing, I did accounting, I did field work, I did process improvement, and then, like senior level administration of the two plans. And, most people, if they're with a company, it's based on your skill set. You get in kind of a groove, and maybe you'll get a couple of opportunities, but it's usually in that channel. And with our place, that's one of the things that I think allowed us to retain people as long as we did, was the opportunity to kind of grow within the company.
Yeah, I think that was that's one of the things that kind of stood out to me about you, is that you stayed with one company for such a long time and
Right.
stayed loyal to that one company. Because nowadays people will hop jobs like left and right. I mean, they'll just see a higher dollar amount, like, no, I'm going to go there. But
Right.
it's good to hear like a story of you just working your way up, like a
Yeah.
tradition, a more traditional way of,
Yeah.
working in the business field.
Sure.
But I guess like,
I kind of have something to say.
Sure.
So you've been with that company for 41 years, and I just want to say that that's better than. So obviously during your journey, you didn't have to like switch jobs over and over again and like have that type of stress. So to
Right.
be with one company for 41 years, like That's, I mean, that's a long time.
It is.
That's a really good thing.
It really
So,
is. You know, I feel like I'm kind of in the middle of two different worlds. And what I mean by that is, you know, the people that came before me, like my father, for example, he worked in the same industry most of his career too, but you know, he was born in 1926. And I think people from that generations and the ones that came after it, you know, you got in with a company, if it was a good company, that's where it was cradle to grave. You were there the whole time, right? And my journey, I think, is kind of somewhat like that, but it was far less common by the time I entered the workforce. And, you know, so there's that transition, and now we get to today, right? And I don't know, and I don't have all the answers on this, but I don't think there's that same level of regard for you as an individual employee. And I think people's expectations are different too as an employee about that. So, you know, we've gone through a lot of cycles and it's really interesting, but you know, I feel like I'm kind of the last of a generation where that was at least a reasonable expectation.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was getting at for sure. You don't hear that often anymore. But also, you kind of brought up a good point there that it is true that there's not the same level of loyalty from employees to employers, but also there's also that idea that we're expendable, like employees are expendable
Correct.
to the employers nowadays more
Right.
than ever.
Yeah, it cuts both ways, and there's a reason why it changed. And that's it. I think employers don't necessarily, you know, look at that relationship the same way anymore.
Yeah. Well, so you're in insurance.
Mhm.
I would say it's a very niche sub subsection of insurance. So it's more on the union and benefit side.
Right.
What does that world kind of look like versus traditional insurance?
So basically, it's, you know, people working for unions, they are under collective bargaining agreements, contracts where those get negotiated, you know, 3 to 5 years. And basically, they create all the working rules that you work under, all the benefits that you receive, you know, and all the, you know, perks that come with the job and what you can expect, you know, in being there. And the, like, no surprise to you guys, I'm sure that's just an area that's, you know, shrunk over time,
Yeah.
right? And but at the same time, I mean, it created a lot of security for a lot of people for a long time. But you know, yeah, the perception is, and I think it's to some degree true, that kind of arrangement is very costly to an employer. You know, in my case, I had basically $1 health coverage for my entire family, a regular pension, and then 401k and life insurance, disability, all these other various benefits. And most people today, there's a lot of contract employees. There's out there. My wife is one of them, and it's just different today because you know employers I don't think are either able or have that thought to provide that robust experience, right? So you just see less and less of that. But that's what you see a lot of times in the union world. So you know it benefits everybody in a way because as an employer and as an employee, that contract basically tells you everything you need to know about what expectations are, both directions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of a good thing in that regard. But you know, it's just something you just don't see very much of. And so you know, a lot has changed over time, and you know that was kind of my experience through it. So you know, I knew what to expect at any given point in time, and plus I also knew if I followed certain rules that you know I was minimally meeting baseline expectations and so on.
Um, for the union benefits and insurance,
Mhm.
is that something that's together combined or two completely separate things?
Well, they're separate. They're different trust funds that we administered those out of. And if you were working for a company that was had an agreement that called for that, it could be one or both. So it was earlier on. It was very common for people to be in the pension fund, and then as years had gone by, medical insurance, the health insurance became more of an expectation, and it became, I would argue, it became a larger part of the economic package you work under. Because the cost of healthcare just continues to
Oh
escalate.
yeah, it's
right?
crazy. Yeah.
And pensions were never inexpensive, but so there was a large migration out of the pension side, and then but the other side of it, the insurance piece of it, is kind of a what people want. That's that safety net that they hope to have.
Right.
Gotcha. Well, we kind of know a little bit more about what industry you're in, and but I want to know a little bit more about you now.
Sure.
So, I think you mentioned before we started recording, you grew up around the area in Streamwood. Did you always live in Illinois, or
No.
where are you from?
No, so I was born in northern Kentucky, and a while back, and lived outside of Cincinnati, kind of across the river. Grew up in kind of a small community, about 3,000 people. And my father was a union executive, and he worked for a couple of different trade unions over time. But long story short, that was the genesis for us to move to Illinois. He merged one union that he worked for merged with another.
What age did you move to Illinois then?
11.
11.
Yeah, and so anyway, that's what got us here, and it created a really exceptional opportunity for him, and for all of us too. But that's how we got here.
How would you say your environment shaped you to who you are today? Whether it's in Kentucky or here, like what kind of environment were you in, and what kind of people were you around?
Sure. Yeah. So small community there.
Yeah.
So your friends were everything.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that grew up, knowing the same dozen or so people for their whole lifetime here, a much larger, base of people, right? And it set me up. I would say I remember the first day we got here when we pulled into the street I lived on. I met like 10 guys within a half an hour, and we all became friends. And I two of those guys I'm still
Oh wow.
literally best friends with, and one lives very close to here, and the other lives a little further out west. But so just kind of a little bit of a grasp as far as that went. And obviously I went to college here, made a lot of friends there, still have a lot of those within my grasp, and just been lucky that way.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's hopefully these two guys are here with me when I
Yeah.
get older. So
Yeah,
that's the goal.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want to ask something.
Sure.
So you were born in Kentucky, moved here, and I see a lot of videos on like TikTok, Instagram of like successful people saying like, if you live in like a small area, like for example, 3,000 people, to move out of your hometown and like move somewhere else to like see different vibes, energy.
Sure.
Based on your experience, would you recommend that for other people? Is that a true thing to say? Move out your hometown?
I think it all depends on what you want. Like if you're going to say go into a trade, or something that's within the grasp of that community, that's great. But I do think it provides a much higher level of possibility to be in a larger metropolitan area. It just makes sense that there'd be lots of other opportunities that you may not ever see, and you get exposed to things. I would argue too that a lot of people, I think, we all have a perception. We think we know what we want out of life, right? Well, do you? When you think about that, the more people you come in contact with, the more professional, connections you make. It reshapes everything.
Oh yeah, I feel like my vision and everything has drastically changed even in the last 6 months, for example. Yeah, it's just constantly changing.
I think it's also like beautiful for a human to be not married to their ideas, because that kind of destroys you as you try to grow as a person. Generally, if you're not married to them, you become a better person because over time,
Like being open minded, right?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right. I agree with that.
There's not a lot of that anymore.
No, there
Everyone's
isn't.
stuck in their ways.
And to be perfectly honest, the area I grew up in was highly segregated back then. It's more, there's more. I don't know, lots of people living together, right, compared to the way it used to be.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, I grew up in a time that I saw some things and the language people used and so forth, you know, it's just wouldn't be acceptable today. You know, you think about an old sitcom on TV today, right? Like
Yeah.
All in the Family, or,
Yeah.
you know, things of that nature, Sanford and Son. Those shows probably wouldn't even be made today.
No.
Based on some of the language that's used and the perceptions that people have. And I think that, you know, the bigger areas help melt that away, right?
100%.
And it shapes you to be, I think, a better person, more well informed, you know, and more accepting of everyone around you.
Yeah. I agree with you, but the counter argument to that would be like nowadays, I think that we're way too far end on the other side now. As in, it feels like you can't say anything nowadays. I don't know if you're on social media much or, you know,
Right.
familiar with like all like the current events going on, but it just feels like everything you say and do online or even like walking around because everything's like recorded now. You can't get away with anything. Like even if you
can't.
say something you don't even know is wrong
Right.
or right or whatever, then
Yeah.
it's all there forever.
It is. And I think there's another component that comes with that. I think it, and now I'm going to sound like an old man, so hang in there with me, you guys. But the way people communicate today, it's all digital, right?
Yeah.
I have a daughter, you know, she's 31 years old now, grown, successful, doing very well in life. But, you know, I've seen through her and through the family dynamic how that all works. And, you know, one of the observations and I say this quite often, but is that everything's digital, right? And I think people sometimes think that they can say virtually anything and it doesn't have that same level of consequence. And like we're sitting here talking today, when you're not doing that, I think it creates opportunity for risk and for people, you know, and for for people to misunderstand or take things the wrong way. We could all read the same email, right?
Right.
And draw something else out of it and come away and two of us feel like, oh my God, how could that person say that? And the others go, well, they're just, you know, getting their thought across. And I think that's one of the things that it concerns me a little bit now, because I think direct communication and people having to face one another is really essential, right? And, you know, we've seen some interesting things. We just came through a pandemic, right? In my life, I've never seen anything like it. But one of the things that I saw as an employer was that change in communication. I think it polarized us a little bit.
Yeah, you know that Zurich building on
Yeah.
on the highway?
Yeah.
That's all remote now. I actually
Yeah.
have a client who worked there.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah, I
just
didn't
built
know-
that not
I
too
did
long
not know
ago.
that,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So she's like, all right, I'm just gonna move to Arizona, hot
Yeah.
weather, chill over
Yeah.
there, work remote. That building just sitting. I believe it just got bought out by someone, but
It's
it was just sitting there for
magnificent.
years. Yeah.
The last I heard, I'm sure your information's more current than mine, but what I heard was they had about 30% of their headcount there. Zurich did, compared to when it was built, right?
It's crazy.
And there's a couple other large employers in there now. One just ADP just migrated there in the last 6 months.
That's who
or
got
so.
it. Yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
But you know that is, you know, think about the city of Chicago and the change that's taken place. You know, when everybody went home, you know, those buildings were empty, the streets were empty, right? And there were different reasons for people to go there. And I mean, I think we all love the city, right? I certainly do. I
Oh, yeah.
love going down there, but it eliminated kind of a reason to be there, and it reshaped everything. And so I think of those, you know, between that and just digital communication to some degree, have really made a major impact on us. And I think it's been positive in many ways, and a little it creates some challenges too, and professionally for sure. So it's you know, people enjoy working at home. I spent my last 4 years working or so home most of the time. And, you know, it's wonderful in a way. But I also appreciated those couple of days when I go in and see the people.
I think the best is hybrid.
Yeah.
Work from home
Yeah.
here and there, but like going in person, just that human. I don't know about you guys, but during COVID, I craved like human connection. Like I wanted to
Yeah.
talk to people. I wanted to like hang out with people, go
Right.
do something,
Right.
whatever. But yeah, I think like the digital world is kind of
Yeah.
taking away from that right now.
So just to give you an idea, so we had about 750 employees, right? And throughout my whole career there, I could walk through that building and I knew every person, everyone, by name, by sight, right? So the pandemic happens. Now we were fully at home for a little bit, and then we went to hybrid. We're at 2 days, and it was interesting because the one thing I would do is I'd get on the elevator, and the first thing I'd do is look for somebody's employer badge, right? Because my last role was director of HR.
Yeah.
So I knew every name, but I didn't know the people anymore. So I'd get on the elevator, and this was happening literally until my last day there. I'd look at badges and go, "Oh, you're Karen," or
You're like,
or,
I've been emailing you for the last 6
Yeah,
months, but I never saw you. Yeah.
Or there were times when I'd ask somebody, I'm like, "How long have you been with us?" And they're like, 4 years. And then
It's crazy.
I'm like, I was a little embarrassed by that because it's like, had we not been in that circumstance, I would have known that person and probably reasonably well. So it's all very interesting, and I'm not saying, oh, we're doomed. I'm just saying it's different. And so it's creating opportunity for us all to adapt a little bit too. But people need people,
Yeah.
period.
Kind of like stemming off this topic now. What are your thoughts on AI and like the development of it over the years?
Well, I guess what I'd say is I don't think any of us know enough yet, like
Yeah.
what it is. And I think there's some really positive things that it can do. But, I think it's creates a lot of anxiety and, fear in people in terms of what they know today and what they do in their role and whether or not.
Like uncertainty now.
Yeah.
Yeah. You never
yeah,
know when
Right.
they could just take your job and
Right.
have AI do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, at the same time, depending on where you're at in your career, it could reshape you. So in other words, you can't do X anymore. Well, I kind of like Y. Maybe I'll go get a certification and change things. So I'm hopeful that that's the type of thing that goes about. And then there's other industries where I think they're going to stay very much the way they are. All the public service, the trades, so to speak, will probably, I think they're going to have some more tools that will help them in doing their roles. An example of that is I used the same heating and air conditioning company for 35 years. And long story short, I actually found out that I went to high school with some of their relatives. And anyway, we became very close. But, now that company is transitioning from father to son. And, every time I see the son, he's like, oh, hey, we're going to do this. I'm going to be walking around with a tablet. You call me. I'm going to know exactly what equipment's in your house. You'll tell me what's wrong, and I'll be there with a part, And so I think it's exciting, but I think it creates apprehension in people too. And if you're later in your career, I think that becomes a scarier thing because it's harder to adapt when you're,
Yeah.
when you're like, well, I'm going to work 3 more years or I'm going to work 5 more years.
Yeah. Us three are kind of in our early stage. We're still like,
right.
Figuring it out and all that for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. But, IT, think about IT today. I think it's anybody's guess how that's all going to go, in terms of software development and things of that nature. But, I think there's certain areas where people are going, oh boy, why did I make the commitment I did, in the education I have and whatever. But, there's always a way, right? So, and I think as a culture, we're pretty adaptable. So, I'm still hopeful, but I do think there's been a lot thrown at people in the last 7 or 8 years.
Oh, yeah.
And, so.
Yeah.
I have 2 questions.
Sure.
What do you believe is the best AI to use? And in terms of the IT that you're talking about, do you think AI will take over IT jobs in the near future?
So Basically I use ChatGPT the most, but again, I've just gone through a big change in my life, right? So I'm probably not the best person to answer that question because it's not as necessary for me at this point in time as it might be for you guys or somebody in between us. What was your second question?
Do you think AI will, so the people that work in IT,
Yes.
like the network engineering, all that, do you think AI will take over a lot of their jobs?
I think a significant number will change. Like software development, I think will be very much, there'll be a lot of change there. In fact, tomorrow morning I'm meeting some former coworkers, and one of them was our chief information officer. And, we have a regular dialogue about that. And from what I'm hearing from them, there's, some of them believe that things are definitely going to adapt. I think the closer you are to hardware in the tech world, you're probably going to be subject to less change.
Yeah, it's interesting because when the internet was first made, right? It was like this, like, whoa, like now we can connect with people on the other side of the world, or Facebook, like we can share pictures, Snapchat, Instagram, whatever it is. Like it was a cool thing. But now we're seeing, the internet is getting. Have you heard of the dead internet theory? Is that what it's called, Hugo?
Explain it to me.
So I think the theory is that like I'm not gonna explain it the best either, but
No, you can butcher it.
but basically we're getting to a point now where it's becoming a bad thing now. It's evolved too much over time, right? So I think that we're in that stage with AI right now where it's a good tool. It's like, whoa, this is cool. We can make funny little videos, or we can use it at work to help us make a whole like patient form or whatever you want to use it for.
Right.
So we're in that cool stage right now, but I think eventually over time it's gonna do the same type of thing as the internet,
Yeah.
evolve too much to a point where it's our detriment now.
Right. Yeah, I tend to agree, and I think that a lot of that, I think about like social media platforms, we all consume that like crazy, right? I mean, if you did ask me 10 years ago that how long I'd spend on my phone every week or my tablet, I'd say, what are you talking about?
Yeah. I mean, companies run through it now.
Right.
People
right,
run whole entire
exactly.
companies through Instagram,
Exactly.
whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, it's really something. And I think that's part of the risk to this is if that's your source of information now, there's a lot of good information out there, but there's a lot that isn't. And I think some of it's really divisive. And one of the things that concerns me right now is the political landscape in our country is so divided, right?
Yeah.
And at my point in life, that scares the crap out of me.
Yeah, that's actually a really good question to ask you is like, what over your, you've been here a lot longer than us, right?
Yeah.
So you've seen a bunch of different presidents and all these like Democrats, Republicans
Right.
going back and forth at each other. Have you ever seen it like this bad though? I feel like it's horrible right now.
I don't think so. But
I was gonna jump in and add the only thing I could remember that maybe you could remember is like the printing press machines, where at the time they were going crazy because they thought because of this machine is gonna take over their jobs,
right.
and I'm just trying to relate this with AI because it's kind of the same thing in some ways.
Yes.
And they just were out of surprise, and I don't know what year that was, but I don't know if it was bad at that time, if you remember or recall, because I never really, I couldn't live that era because
Now
I
you're a
wasn't
time
born.
traveler.
Right.
He was there.
But,
You might have been. It might have been. You may have been in a different vessel then, but
yeah.
anything's possible. I did live through that. In fact, I worked for a printing company in high school, and I was a shipping clerk. And but it was a little company, and if there was something that needed to be done, I did it. So I would help out with the print function a little bit. You'd make these plates that would go on the press, and that's what would create the document, right?
Right, yeah.
And I would do some retouching on that. Worst idea in the world, because I have what's called an essential tremor, so my hands always shake. You don't want somebody like me like touching up a steel band that is going to run thousands and thousands of copies of anything. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I did, and I was part of that. I saw it through, and I think that it's escalated. I think that today the things
Yeah.
we're facing are way bigger.
Yeah.
Right?
No, for sure.
Yeah. But, again, I talked about, social media and some of the risks to it. I think there's some positives too. And so the access to information, right or wrong, is there, right? So I think that also gives us the possibility to adapt a little bit more quickly. So, that's part of the reason I have hope for it. Going to the political thing, I think we're in probably the most divisive time I've seen in 63 years. So,
We grew up in the wrong time, guys.
yeah.
We decided to be born in the wrong era, but
Yeah. Well, you go back 30 years anyway, maybe even less. And I think about the dynamic in Congress, for example. Maybe some of the solutions were watered down because of it. Maybe they weren't. But the bottom line was I think there were people willing to kind of talk and get to, an end point. And now it's more of a zero-sum game than I've ever seen.
it's just like a roast battle between the candidates nowadays. Yeah,
yeah,
they just
exactly.
they just try to shit on each other, and then
Right.
that's it. It's like, wait, what are you gonna do though? Like,
And I do think, you think about the entire body of Congress, for example, they're the same people, the same names you see all the time out there. Forgetting your politics, just think about who those are on both sides of the equation.
Right. Yeah.
We're seeing a small number of those people. There's a lot of other people there that probably are really, very, very much want to do the right thing, and they're willing to bend a little bit to get there. And so I don't know. I mean, it is a crazy time. You think about every time the budget's coming near, and they just kick the can and they keep giving interim approvals and so forth, and everybody's hanging in the balance while that's going on. So those are the things that I think are really at a point that I haven't seen before. And I just wish people could be a little bit more flexible. And, you got to listen. That's all life is listening. It really is. The more that you do, the better off you are. Even if you don't agree with somebody, you gotta hear those perspectives, because it will help you shape what you really think. And you learn from everything.
yeah,
So,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I don't know if I should even say this, but like one of the things, me personally, this is how I view it, is I feel like social media kind of ruined everything about politics, but at the same time, it's also helping us at the same time with gathering information like in an instant. Where back in the day, you would wait until the news appears and they tell you what's going on with the world. Here's my thing. I feel like social media ruined politics for them in a way, because back then they were able to get away with like so many things, like with war, diseases, stuff that they would lie to you because, well, I
I
don't
know
know.
what you mean. You're saying like we're able to see that information now,
Yeah.
and not have it be hidden.
Before
Yeah.
it would take a very long time before that, like the actual correct,
Yeah.
accurate information would come out, and it would take years. Now it's just in an instant. Like,
But
what's-
also counter that. Now there's so much misinformation mixed in. You're like,
Right,
wait,
exactly.
what is true now?
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
You have to watch who you listen to.
yeah.
you do.
And-
You absolutely do. The other thing I'd say about that is, and I'll give you an example, is, I think about like during the Kennedy administration, for example, right? There were horrible things happen, right?
Correct.
People lost their lives, so on and so forth. But at that time, the media, I think, had kind of a better grasp on this sense of responsibility that they had, right? So there were things that they knew that they didn't report because it really didn't add any value to the story. It was borderline personal, right? And there was a separation there, and that, so they it was, I think there was more respect for ethics at that time, right? And today, it's not like that. It's, grabbing those headlines and getting it out there. And, one of the observations I have, I don't watch a lot of television news, for example. And part of the reason for it is I never feel like I'm getting the whole story.
You can watch two different channels and have two different
Yeah.
whole stories.
And the same is
Yeah.
true, the counterpart to that in social media.
Yeah.
You're getting a few words, and it's like, well, I don't know. I'm not sure. But so I think that's a big change that we've seen. And, the thing about it is, I was going to say this before when we were talking about changes now and the effect of all that. And the bottom line is it's not the technology, it's people, right?
It's how we
the
respond to
people.
the technology. Yeah.
How
Yeah.
you internalize it and how people put it out there and what their motives are. And, that's the thing now that I think you really have to really be a very conscious consumer of those things.
And I can add into that because actually that's crazy you brought this up. I realized, you ever seen like videos where it's completely negative, where they would end up talking negative about a person just for the clickbait, just so they can get the
Absolutely.
viewer, just so they can make the bread, just so they can make the money.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. And it's crazy because you are right. How we portray it on social media, how we adapt to it is our own choice and our free will and stuff like that. And some of us are going to use it for good, obviously, and then some of us are going to use it for mainly bad.
Right.
And for the most part, it's been kind of a mixture of both, but mainly more on the bad side.
You want to know something interesting? Hugo and I talked about this before, but I want to see what you think about this. So, what I see on my phone, I have my own interests, my own hobbies, my own political views, my own opinions, right?
Of course.
You
So
have
the
yours, you have
algorithm.
yours. Yeah, this has to do with algorithms. So,
Oh, yeah.
my phone, let's say I feel one way about something. Let's say I hate the Chicago Bulls. I do right now
Yeah.
because I mean we did fire everybody, so it's a good step. But I hate the Bulls. That based off my phone knowing that about me, I don't know if it's like through the microphone or just what I look at, whatever. It's going to formulate everything I see based around that idea.
Yeah.
You love the Bulls. Everything's going to be formulated based around that idea. And that's the issue right now with politics specifically, is that you can go down one rabbit hole of like feeling some type of way about a policy or a candidate or the president or whatever. And you can have a completely different set of news articles, people like posting stuff, and it's going to form to what you want. So
Yeah.
now we all have this misconstrued like view on reality. So now it's like we're here in person talking to each other and we have a whole different knowledge base of what we're talking about, and that's so scary and that's crazy, and that's why people are not thinking for themselves anymore.
Right.
It's all just like, oh, let me follow whatever this person says.
Yeah.
And that's when you completely lose it because, like, if let's just say you're right about something, and I thought my side was right the whole time, but yours was correct, and you can give me all the papers, the files, everything to show me the data of you being correct, and if I still deny it, that I'm like, no, we still believe that ours is correct. You completely lost the game. Like,
Yeah.
you're not even thinking for yourself anymore.
You're right. And that transaction isn't happening as much as it should.
Yeah.
Where somebody takes the time to say, no, dude, we need to go through this. Look what I have here. Let's talk about this. And you can still walk away and disagree.
And shake hands.
You got a
Yeah.
better
Yeah.
understanding. The other piece of it is the socioeconomics part of it. I'll give you an old man example of this. 5 years ago, I'm walking through Menards, right? I walk into an aisle where they have all these plumbing tools, right? And I never said a word. I just looked at a few things. I walked away. I got in my car. Bang, bang, bang. It was a specific brand of tool. I'm getting ads for it. And it's like, there's RFIDs in there, right?
Yeah.
It's nuts. So it's affecting that too. And it's like you're getting fed and you're like, oh, well, I need that.
Basically, we're getting dumber and over consuming at the same time.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I didn't think I could get dumber, but I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you're using AI constantly, you know how much of your thinking goes away.
What you trying to say?
Sure.
Because I'm not gonna lie, Blocker and I, we do use AI a lot, just because the fields we're in for
Everybody
work.
does.
It's a tool right now for sure. But I agree with Hugo. Like sometimes I'll catch myself. I'll be like, maybe I should just like use my brain a little bit here.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, we all do that.
Yeah.
right? I think about all the things I encountered in our business and the way people were using AI. And, you know, I think it's a great tool, but you still have to make your own mind up.
100%.
You have to synthesize that information into what you really want, what you're trying to get out of it.
I'll add something too. Before you're talking about like using AI too much, I saw a thing where like people were using AI for like as a therapist and like mental health stuff. So
Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kinda
Someone
scary.
married their AI chatbot.
Wow.
Yeah.
What? Okay.
Left his wife and kids. You didn't hear about that story?
No.
It's crazy. I mean, there's like that kind of, you know how we said like what you consume on your phone, it kind of formulates to what you want, right? It's kind of the same with AI too.
Yeah.
Because yes, it'll tell you information and, you know, obviously facts and stuff like that, but it's kind of like kiss your ass a little bit and make you feel like you're right.
Right.
And you forget like you're a
Absolutely.
human, you have to think for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen some things, especially with behavioral health, you know, to your point, and where AI was basically telling them things that were really dangerous.
Oh
right?
yeah, I've
You
heard
know,
stories. Yeah.
And, you know, again, you watch something on a news program or whatever, and you're like, okay, should I buy this or should, you know what I mean? So you don't know what to believe, but the thought of that is, you know, that machine or those machines are constantly learning, right? So at a certain point, and then they're doing whatever they do with that information, and then, you know, we consume it. And it's a little freaky. Talk about a cycle of change. It's huge.
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna lie to you. This conversation went a completely different direction, but I'm enjoying it. Are you guys enjoying it? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's actually like interesting. I didn't even think about like talking to you about AI and all this stuff, but it's actually interesting to hear your perspective because you've seen technology kind of grow over the years.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, yeah, especially you because like at the time, did you guys had to use that one phone where you had to do like all around the circle? I forgot what
rotary
it's called.
phone, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a funny thing. Like, when I was in Kentucky, right before I left, I had a very well-to-do neighbor. We were not well-to-do. We were just normal folks, right? 1,200 square foot house, 3 kids, and he had a convertible Cadillac, and he was the first person I know to get a mobile phone in their car. And that phone you're talking about that would sit on a desk and it had the rotary on it and then the receiver on top, that's what was in his car. It was the craziest thing. If you guys saw that right now, you go, no, come on. What is this?
No, that's kind of like us.
Tesla doesn't have this.
Yeah, Tesla doesn't have shit on them. Yeah.
No, exactly.
Like now we're like, whoa, like the car drives by itself. You know, like it's so that's your equivalent of like something crazy like being in the car like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just in Scottsdale. My daughter lives out there and runs a business. And anyway, Waymo's everywhere.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
My wife loves it.
So when I went to Arizona 2023 December, I think they just introduced it. And I know that Arizona is a grid system.
Yeah.
That's why they wanted to do it more on the West Coast
Yeah.
versus like Chicago. They'll crash right away.
Yeah.
But I think they are bringing it here now,
They're
right?
testing it
Yeah.
right now. They have cars here now.
So I remember like I just ordered an Uber. We were gonna go out to eat or something. So I'm just waiting, and then it's like, oh, if you use Waymo, it'll be half the wait time. I'm like,
Yeah.
self-driving. I was like, no, this is a joke. It's gonna be like some like
Wow.
gag thing. I click the button, the car just pulls up and the doors open. I'm like, what the heck? This is crazy. Like,
Then this goes to the socioeconomic part of it. We were just talking about it. You get in that car. It's pretty inexpensive. You don't have to tip anybody.
That was
you
the
don't
thing,
have to
too.
talk to anybody.
I'm not gonna lie, that's why I used it too. I was like, save a couple dollars right now. I'm not gonna lie, my cheap ass. I was like, save a couple dollars right here real quick.
The other interesting thing out there, I mean, you're right, it's a grid system.
Yeah.
But we took it to the airport, and, you know, it's the way to go. But it does not go on the highway still.
Oh, it doesn't?
No.
Okay.
It takes surface roads, and, you know, significant ones. And some of the surface roads out there are four lanes each way. But it does not go on the highway yet. And, you know, I think that's probably good. I mean, they're you know,
makes
it's
sense.
learning. You know, and then you think about Chicago, right? Or Manhattan. Think about New York.
Good luck. I don't even know how they're gonna do it, but
So ironically, we used to go to, due to my wife's business, we used to spend a lot of time in New York. So we spent a lot of time in cabs. I love a New York cab ride, right?
yeah,
Because it's a little bit crazy. It's kind of like going to an amusement park because they are just moving, right? But you
Did
know,
you take
and there's
cabs
a
when you
little
went?
social dynamic.
To New York? No.
yeah, no.
No.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, they're probably. I don't even know. I haven't been there in like 8 or 9 years now, and I had no idea because the cab thing in Manhattan, those people pay $500,000 to $1 million to get their license for the lease on the cab, and I'm curious like what's left. So you were there recently or?
No, this was like maybe
Like 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
Yeah.
It has to
Yeah.
be somewhere. But I went there before, like for truck driving.
Got it.
Yeah, so I still see the cabs, but never
Yeah.
rode one.
Yeah. Well, and isn't that interesting? Because, I'm talking about myself there, and that's all there was, right? The last time I was there was no, autonomous cars. There wasn't Uber yet. And that was the only game in town. And I'm like, you're like, I'm going to die today because
Not yet.
they're doing everything but driving on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And then you come full circle to where we're at now, where it's this blended thing, right? So it's kind of interesting.
What was your opinion when Uber came around?
I thought it was a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I'm pretty adaptable, and I mean I love Waymo, right? Why do I
Yeah.
love it? Because it's different and it it meets your needs, and it's sometimes when you're in a ride like that, you don't want to be social, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's so I'm pretty open minded to that, and we met at the coffee shop, for example, right?
Yeah.
The guys that we all hang out together, and it's a sliding scale how people feel about that. Probably most of them are not. They probably wouldn't even be willing to make an attempt to do the autonomous ride, right? And I'm not. That's
Not gonna lie to you,
not
I watch
negative.
too many movies. Sometimes, like, what if this like kidnaps me and like like drives off the bridge or something?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I don't know, but
What I would tell you in my experience in being in them out there, they're more cautious than not. So,
Yeah.
for example, if you're on a street and this sidewalk is right next to you, if somebody's walking on that sidewalk, it'll slow down even when it doesn't need to.
I did notice that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting.
Yeah. But I actually want to bring it back a little bit because I know you said your dad worked in pretty much kind of the same type of industry
Kind of
as
a
you.
related thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that's what got you into that? Like, what where did you see the value in working in that industry?
Well, a lot of it did because I'll be the first one. And my dad was like, my parents were amazing. I was very blessed, and he was an exceptional role model. So when he talked, I usually listened, not all the time, but most of the time. So I think some of that did rub off on me. But to be honest with you, when I took my first role at the company I was with, I came out of school in kind of a shady job market, right? And there weren't a lot of opportunities. And so,
It's kind of like right now for kids in college, getting out of college right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right. So the bottom line was, not through my father, but through people he knew, he was able to get me an interview there, right?
Okay.
And that's how it all started. So it was really more about chance than it was a conviction to do that. But
Kind of just fell into it.
sort of, but
Yeah.
there are no mistakes in life. Things happen, and we all react to them, and that I feel like that was part of it.
Yeah. So kind of tying, we're talking a lot about the future right now, right? And kind of tying your industry into it. Where do you see the future of like insurance and benefits going from here on? Because I mean, I have no idea where it's going to go from here on. What do you
Right.
think?
I think it's going to be much like any other thing where you can automate, you will. My example, when I was basically in charge of the health fund, the insurance side of the business, one of my key tasks was to increase what we call throughput, which all that means is all four of us are claims adjusters. The goal is to take claims that are very similar and automate their processing so they don't have to come to you, me, or anybody at this table, right? And so I spent a lot of time looking for efficiencies, and all you're doing is, you know, obviously setting up code to make that happen, but also assessing the risk of doing it. It's like, if you take this action, how often will I be right? Will it have a downstream impact? Will it create additional work? That's how life works. Everything is that way, right? And so, you know, there's a lot of value in that now, because it helps. Like for us, we had very low what we call administrative expense. So the cost of running our business and paying everybody and marketing and so on and so forth was extremely low. And so we almost always could outpace competitors with our product.
Do you think that that low cost to low admin cost is increasing now? Just because there's so much competition now, right? You kind of have to give yourself that edge over each other.
You know, I think it really depends on where you're at.
Yeah.
I think generally, yes, I think it is. But again, you know, remember what I said, you have to think about the downstream impact of it. And the question is, are you doing it because it's fast and cheap, or are you doing it because it's fast, cheap, and it's actually a better level of service, right? And that's the question I can't sit here and answer. I'm almost afraid to take a guess at that one.
Yeah.
Right? You know, that's one of the things that worries me, is that's what's happening here. It's like, oh, it's gone, it's off our plate.
I see.
And I can tell you, in the insurance industry, insurance is very hard for people to understand, right? Medical insurance. So you could have something, a claim paid or denied, and you know, you don't really understand why you may, you know, you can get those answers, but sometimes it's harder than others. The bottom line is, if you don't understand it and you're not able or willing to do that research, then you're just going to be angry, right? Because you're like, well, that's not fair. I pay all this money for this insurance and I didn't get anything out of it, right? So that's the risk there, is, you know, you trust people to do those things for you on your behalf. And if you're not being a good steward for that, you know, people are just going to end up pissed.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand it and they think you did something wrong, right? And so those are some of the risks, you know, with that type of, you know, change.
Would you say that's like the biggest misconception for people in insurance? Like, they're not informed enough on what they're paying for?
It's a huge part of it. And I'll give you an example. In fact, I was talking to somebody about this today. You know, one of the most expensive things today for medical coverage is pharmaceuticals. You know, the markup on them is pretty amazing, right? Here larger than most other developed countries. And there's steering that goes on. And what I mean by that is, it's like you've got, you know, some condition, and let's say there's 20 drugs out there that treat it. Some of them are new to market and they're very expensive. Some of them have been around a long time, right? And, you know, basically, again, you're trying to spread those dollars the best way you can. So a lot of times the medication you get is based on, you know, the overall cost and whether it'll be effective for you, right? And so the newer the drug is, the more it costs. And because of that, you have to build a business case that says it's worth that money, right? And so what happens is, there's all kinds of steering based on network agreements that are in place to steer you to certain medications over another.
There's no, because I work a little bit in real estate as well. You can get in trouble for steering. Is
Right.
there any like laws or any regulations on that, or is it kind of just one of those things it just happens?
No, there are absolutely laws.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, it's such a huge industry. It's like any other big industry, right? It's tough to, you know, effectively ride herd on them.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, if you're the consumer and you know your drug's denied and your doctor's like, this is it, this will make you better, right? And it's being denied, that's all you know, right? and that's a big thing for people. And they shouldn't, it's difficult because it's a lot to understand. I spent a whole lifetime in the industry, right? And there's lots of things I don't know, but I know a lot more than the average person does. And so, that's all part of, I think, the baseline expectations that we should have of, our leadership, our congressional leaders and the president and everybody else and companies, is to make sure that there's that balance there, that you're doing the right thing for the right reasons and for the right cost. And so it's a lot.
Yeah, you mentioned how big of an industry it is. So I actually do like some contract work with like health clinics, specifically like
Yeah.
a psychiatric clinic.
Right.
So like the drug reps will come in,
Yeah.
they'll bring us like Longhorn Steakhouse steaks and just
Yeah.
like feed us all and just to
Right.
sell the drug,
Right.
and that's like just a business expense for them.
Right. Absolutely.
crazy,
It's kind
yeah.
of built into it because they want to create, that bridge between you and them, and so that you'll think of them first when the time comes for whatever your need is.
What do you guys think though? Like looking at it from like a more, I guess, like human aspect of it, it's like that's kind of messed up. Like you're just basically, it's like sales in an industry where your health is on the line.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think about that?
I mean, I feel like they're doing it because you can tell me if I'm wrong, but like in sales and marketing, like no one's gonna buy from you if they don't like you and like respect you and things like that. So I think them
Yeah.
doing the Longhorn Steakhouse
Yeah.
thing is like them like familiarity, like
Sure.
providing. So that's like my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it, and I think there's definitely a place for that, right? So it's not all deceitful and devious.
Yeah.
Part of that is very much the case, but, we can all think of other examples where there's no way to justify it, right?
There's a lot, yeah.
Now, I would love to believe that that is, the exception rather than the rule. But, that's it all comes back to the same thing. It's people kind of working their way through things and understanding and talking, and communicating, and, those things can be solved.
Yeah. Well, something that we like to ask everybody that comes on to our show is that if you had to start again from the beginning, knowing, what you know now, what would you do differently? Is there any, mistakes or bumps on the road you think you could have avoided to get to where you are today? Or, what would your journey look like?
Lots of mistakes. Yeah.
Yeah.
We all make them.
Yeah.
I'm just saying we're human, right? So there's things that, you go back and do differently. I think I was kind of lucky to be in the world I was in. I'll give you an example. Somebody I know very well that did a lot of the very same things that I did, but did it for a for-profit entity. And, socioeconomically, there's a big spread between me and that person, right? But it's not all just about that. Like, I had all these amazing benefits and coverage that protected me and my family, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of invaluable too. So, but in terms of professional choices, I think for the most part, they all worked out. The luckiest thing I had was, and I consider it luck. I'm a reasonably intelligent person, but one of the things I noticed was I'd get stagnant, and there were certain roles I didn't like as much as others, just to be really honest.
Yeah.
And, one of the things was that the reason I thought I was lucky was if I were in one of those roles, I wouldn't necessarily go say, you know what, I've had it. I need change right now, right? That wasn't me. I always say when you're not happy or you're thinking about change, keep doing a good job, right? And so anyway, I feel like things happen for me for whatever reason at the right times. I was able to move into either different roles or be promoted or whatever the case was. And it all helped me grow as an employee. And that's why I ended up kind of at a senior, like kind of a leadership role in the company, is because of all the things that I was exposed to and a part of. And, that's one of those things. It's like, well, I don't know whether or not that type of opportunity is as, easy to find anymore. right? I hope it is. But at the same time, that's why I feel really lucky to have done what I did. And was it perfect? God, no. I wasn't perfect either. So thank God for both sides of that, right?
Yeah.
But I had a pretty good run.
Yeah. No, I know you're retired now. You got any fun trips or anything planned?
Yeah, well, my daughter lives in Arizona, so we go out there a fair amount, and then we have some international travel that we're going to be doing, and I'm a firm believer in I'm not going to be on a cruise ship for a while because I want to go out and touch things and do things, right? So we're going to do as much of that as we can while we can. We're pretty fortunate we're able to do a lot of that. We've kind of prepared for this stage of our life for a long time, so we'll be able to take advantage of that. I've seen some great things. I've been to Patagonia. I've been to Easter Island. A few places in Europe. My wife's done more of it than I have earlier in her life. And I just want to get all we can get because you never know.
Oh, yeah.
My father worked his ass off for over 50 years, and he was a sick man when he left. And so all the things he talked about doing with my mother, very little of that was possible because he was not physically able. Right. And so I'm like, today, live for today. Not in every way, but you got to, when you get an opportunity to do something, just do it.
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
Well, Easter Islands were one of the seven wonders, right?
Yeah.
How was it just looking at the?
It's unbelievable. You can't really. I'll show you guys some pictures when we wrap if you want. But they're called moi. They're these giant stone statues, and you just look at it and go, how did they carve this and then get it from here to Schaumburg, right? It's like how do they move this damn thing?
It was aliens.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a whole nother podcast, though, right there.
So that's an amazing place. Patagonia is, if any of you've ever been to Alaska, it's a lot like that, but it's like Alaska on steroids, and it is one of the most exceptional places I've ever seen. So that was literally a lifetime trip for us, and I'd love to go back again.
No, I'm glad. I'm glad you're getting to travel around everywhere. What's one question I actually wanted to ask you before we wrap up here is, so we go to the same coffee shop. That's how I met you.
Yeah.
What gets you? I mean, you're retired. You're chilling now. What gets you to go to the coffee shop every morning, super early at 7 a.m?
So it's community.
Yeah.
More than anything, and I found the coffee shop during the pandemic because I was working from home. And I was working from home, and we were in a very small house at the time, and my wife and I each had offices. She's freelance. She's in the art world and fashion and things of that nature. Well, our offices are like this, right? So we're hearing each other's calls. We're like, Jesus, So anyway, maybe I'll just tip out. Go get a coffee this morning, and I met the owner there, and pretty
good people there.
Guy. Absolutely,
everybody's super cool there. We always see the same people there all the time. So it's a good community we got going over there.
So I go there frequently, but it was out of that situation, and had I not gone, the owner engaged with me immediately, and you guys know who he is, and he's had a very successful career of his own.
Yeah, we're gonna have him on here at some point as well in the future. Good. Yeah, he's a good dude for sure.
That. And so the bottom line was that our first conversation, because he was in big corporate roles, and he described everything he did, and I said, "Why are you here? Why are you doing this?" And he goes, community. He goes, I like to mentor people. I like to engage. And that was the genesis of that business. Yeah. Right. And so it immediately called to me. And, so I really am grateful for that. And I would have never met you three.
Oh, yeah.
If it weren't for that. Right. And a lot of other people.
God works in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
It sure does.
Yeah. Well, I really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, likewise.
I appreciate you coming on. I know you're you're not really busy anymore, but but
trying to stay busy. I feel very guilty when I'm not busy now.
Yeah.
So
well, here we gave you something. We gave you a little fun activity to do.
Give me a gift.
You guys have anything to add? You're good.
No, just appreciate you for coming, taking your time.
Absolutely, happy to do it.
Thank you for coming, and congrats on retirement
Thank
and
you.
everything else.
Exactly. Enjoy as much as you can and see many countries as much as possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you put the work in. You dedicated yourself to a company, and like you deserve everything you have right now for
Thank
sure,
you.
100%.
I appreciate that.
But yeah, thanks for tuning in to another episode. We appreciate you guys for watching. Thanks again, John, for coming on. And yeah, you know where to find us next time.
All right. Bye, everyone.
See you.